I am red in the face from the sun, Brent, but I didn't catch anything of what you were saying because I wasn't actually listening to Rebecca because I was too busy having a look at our spotted friend Hosana. So he's been lying at the carcass, obviously, for a little bit of time, and we just haven't noticed him. He's kind of was behind it, and when Charles from Insinga on Buffelshoek came in, he said, "Did I know about the leopard that was lying here?" And I said, "No, I didn't know about the leopard." And so Hosana has been sitting, and we were saying that Franklins were alarm calling and the hyenas were looking in this direction, so he's obviously just found himself a little place to sit. And I wonder if he's been watching us when we in camera the whole day today. I'm surprised. But it's been really interesting kind of watching what's been going on with him over the last little bit, because he's kind of in a situation where he's not really feeding, but he's still very intrigued by this whole thing. That Hosana, probably this is the first time he's ever seen a dead elephant. You would never have seen a dead elephant before, and he's never probably tasted elephant, and so he's curious because of all the vultures, and he knows vultures and hyenas generally mean meat, and he can smell meat, but I think he's a bit overwhelmed maybe by the size of it, and that's why he's a bit kind of cautious of going in, because I don't think anyone's actually seen him feeding on this particular carcass just yet, and so maybe he's trying to kind of work it out and bide his time. But isn't it amazing now that we have access to this, so somebody can watch this 24 hours a day at some point when we go live with that camera, and we can see if maybe Hosana's sneaking meals when everybody else is kind of sleeping. That maybe is what's happening, and we're just not catching him at the right time. But it's pretty incredible that he's sitting here. I was hoping that, oh, look at those eyes in this light. He really does have incredible eyes. He's got eyes very similar to Lamula. It's got these kind of orange colors to them. And there he's going to just flop his head down. Shame, boy, are you tired? Seems like he's a bit tired and that he's had a tough day. Like I say, I wonder if he was watching. I mean, we walked all over the place here, so we didn't see him at all, and maybe he was just kind of watching us from afar. So Deborah, he is magnificent. He's truly growing into a spectacular leopard. Big, strong. He seems to be seriously witty, well, not witty, but clever in the way that he goes about his business. He's a very curious cat, but still seems to have a little bit of caution that allows him to kind of get away with things at this stage. And I was 99% sure that it was going to be him that was going to arrive at this carcass first, and I thought that his dad, Tingana, would also arrive here as well, so I'm still holding out hope for them. But when we discussed which cat would be the first one at this carcass, my bet was him, and it's because of his curious nature. I think he just saw vultures and probably heard squabbling and thought, well, I'm going to go and see what this is all about and go and get myself a little bit of the action and a front row seat as to what's going on. And so it's really been interesting to follow him, and the fact of the matter is he's becoming a spectacular individual. He's getting bigger by the day. He seems to be completely at ease with his sort of life at the moment, the way that he's moving around. He doesn't seem to be too kind of worried about all the ongoings around him, and it is an upside-down leopard world that he's in at the moment. If you think about this time last year when he was a sort of panicked cub that had been left by his mom and was trying to find her and was struggling and trying to get just even the smallest of food items in the forms of terrapins and monitor lizards, to where he is now, where he's hunting big adult male impalas and, you know, at elephant carcasses and all kinds of other things. It's pretty insane to think. So it's amazing that he's a part of this and that he's kind of grown the way he has, and I really, really hope that whatever happens is that he ends up in somewhere where we can follow him, hopefully still on our area where we can physically see him every day. But if not that, then just somewhere where we get regular updates on him, because whoever gets this leopard, if he doesn't stay here, is going to inherit a serious character and is going to absolutely, I'm sure, fall in love with him very quickly because of his nature and the way that he goes about things. So we are extremely lucky that we've had 2 years with this cat and have seen so many amazing things through him. And it seems to just continue. We seem to be learning a different side of leopards from him. He's got a bit of a different demeanor to a lot of our other males, and the curiosity and the sort of interest that he shows in so many different things makes him an incredible animal to follow and to kind of just document and watch and learn from. It's kind of changes a lot of what we believe in leopards, and his relationship with the others around him is really very interesting. I think that's probably the biggest thing with Hosana, is that he somehow manages to get away with just walking up to random leopards. I mean, we know we've seen him with so many different individuals, and he gets away with it. It's not like any of them have swatted him on the nose or gone very aggressive towards him. He seems to just somehow kind of charm them in some way, like he charms everybody else and all of us, I suppose. So he's got a very, very good demeanor about him, and an interesting. Kristen, mortality rate of a leopard of Hosana's age, difficult to say. It's infinitely better than what it was when he was 3 months old. As soon as he's able to climb, and as soon as he was able to kind of start feeding himself, his mortality rate would have dropped right down. So for me, probably I would say, I mean, you never know. The lions could get him at any stage. You could have hyenas, you could have another leopard. Really difficult to say what could happen to this young male. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is. I don't think there even is a percentage. Not at all. I've been looking for him, and I was just saying to Dave that he's been giving us the runaround. Yesterday afternoon he was nowhere to be found in this area, and now again, this afternoon it took us a while to actually find him. So keep my eye on him and make sure he doesn't disappear under our noses again. But it's so good to see him. He's such a cool animal, and he's just taking it very easy. He's very intrigued by all the ongoings at this elephant carcass. He's watching the hyenas going crazy and feeding, and I think he might be waiting for the hyenas to actually move on. You can see they sort of feeding now, and most of them have finished on that carcass at the moment. Most of them are done, and so there's just the two that remain at this stage. And I think once they leave, maybe Hosana might come and sniff around. It'll be interesting if he does. I wonder why he hasn't taken any bites of it or decided to have a little bit of a feeding session on the carcass. It seems like he would have just tried it at least. Maybe he did. Maybe he had a nibble, and elephant isn't for him. A bit tough and a bit smelly. He's obviously a fine diner these days. Hosana seems to be able to find food everywhere, and so maybe it's fresh rumps and fillets for him. Otherwise, he's not interested in having it at all. He seems to be a cat that just enjoys having the good stuff, the finer things in life. And why not? If you're able to get it, then he's certainly welcome to do so. But we were just talking about how this light just complements his eyes so much. He's got these beautiful orange eyes, and when he's got his head up like that, the light is just hitting them in the right angle at the moment, and it's just accentuating that color so much, and you're getting this beautiful, rich, deep orange that's shining through. Isn't that beautiful? I think so. I think that's as good as it gets when it comes to eye colors. And you can see when they go into the shade how they lose a little bit of that sort of saturation, if you want to call it, and that beauty in the eyes itself. X-Pack, no, I'm not scared of all of these hyenas, like I say, and they're not very scared of me either, because I've been sitting here, like I said, and we were working on this earlier, and these hyenas were not in any way fazed by us being aware that Hosana is here. It's why earlier we were seeing them kind of looking in this direction and staring. They obviously were watching him kind of just sitting here and making sure that he's not too close. And they're not threatened by him because he's still a younger male leopard. He's not a massive brute of an individual. Also, there's 3 of them, or 2 of them versus just the one leopard. And so they know he's there, but they're not too stressed about it at all. And you can see Hosana's not very perturbed either. He's just sitting here enjoying kind of watching what's going on and seeing hyenas go about their business. But hyenas fascinate me. The amount of food that they can push into their stomachs. Some of these hyenas have been feeding for an hour now, and they've just been absolutely gulping down big chunks of flesh. And I think poor Hosana's a bit jealous, and maybe he wants a little afternoon snack as well, and to try and kind of finish up what is inside there. And maybe there's a few fresher parts that are exposed that he can maybe get himself into. But amazing how much has been eaten since, like I say, since even we were here. The vultures must have got seriously stuck in this afternoon in the time that we went to the Gari repeater and then back to the camp and back out again, because that whole section where those hyenas are feeding now was all skin at the back, and even the leg itself has got a big split in it and lots of meat out of there, which wasn't like that. Now, I believe a lot of you have just joined us and are asking about a camera here at the Carcass. Brent, myself, and Conrad And the reason we installed it is so that we can bring you this Carcass 24 hours a day, so you guys can watch it. It's not live just yet. It still needs a little bit of stuff done to it, and so we installed all the hardware and tried to get it up and kind of at least so that they can then do all the software side and all the sort of behind the scenes things to get it up and running. But essentially what's going to happen is there'll be a live camera that you'll be able to watch what happens at this Carcass even when we're not on drive. So that's the idea behind it and why we set it up. The camera is positioned just next to me. I will try and show you exactly where it is, and basically what we tried to do is to try and put a camera in that was not going to disturb the sighting in any way. It's not going to be in the way. It's also not going to be very visible for everybody else that has come to spend a bit of time at this sighting, because ultimately they don't want to see cables and batteries and all kinds of other things. And so what we've done is we've set it up so that it's pretty well hidden, and basically that's the situation. And so there is going to be a camera at some point. Now you can see Hosana slowly but surely stalking in. Hyenas are losing their nerve a little bit and are running away. Look, Hosana's kind of watching them as the hyenas go. So the hyenas have run quite far already. But even though they're probably strong enough to chase Hosana, he's just kind of watching them. And now we've got a bit of a Mexican standoff. Vulture, hyena versus leopard at this stage. And there is our leopard standing watching, and look at him, he's starting to get his little dewlap, getting big bulky shoulders, looking very, very handsome indeed. What have you spotted now, Hosana? Hosana looks like he's also spotted something. Look at the way he's perked up his whole head and is looking into the distance there. I don't know if it's maybe because some hyenas are running in that direction. I'm not sure. Interesting, there might be something else that's on its way, because he's definitely very, very interested in something that's walking somewhere in there. Now, I know the last hyena sort of view of the hyenas I had was running in that direction, so maybe that's what he's seen, is just their backs bouncing through the bush. Yes, it is a hyena. I can see it now. It's just come out from behind. It's a very dark hyena. It's just straight through there, where that car has just gone there. You can just see its ears moving every now and then behind that bush. Come on, hyena, come out now. You're not supposed to have stopped there. You're supposed to have come there. You can see it just on the left there, behind that tree. Yeah, right in there. So there it is. You can just see its ears. And that's the one that I was saying that's being picked on heavily by the others. It's got a bit of an ear missing, bite marks all over the place. And so it's really had a tough time over the last few days. I think being here means food, but also you're going to have to get a little bit kind of, you know, beaten up by some of the other clan members that are around. What surprises me is that we haven't had any other clans arrive here. I was hoping somewhat that we'd see a little bit of a clan kind of dispute, and normally with big carcasses like that you start to see the hyenas coming in, and not from a point of view that I want them to fight, but just the audio when two clans meet is just the most insane thing. The noise that you get from hyenas when they meet each other, the whoops and the cackles and the sort of low howls that they do, is just the most incredible thing to be a part of. Now, Hosana, what's going on, boy? There's nobody at the Carcass. You can go there if you want to. No, not interested. Funny enough, he actually has climbed the tree where this elephant carcass is, because when Brent went up, Brent was the first one to go up the tree, of course, and it's a funny thing, because Brent went up first, like I say, and as he got up there, he looked down on his shirt, and he just had Hosana fur all over his t-shirt as he went up into that tree. And so he has been up there, and I know a lot of you were saying he should climb the tree for the camera, and hopefully he will. Now, for those of you that were also inquiring about the camera as to where it is in relation to this carcass, basically it runs from the tree at the top there, and then the cable runs, it's up there somewhere, is the actual little radio receiver. It's quite well hidden. There it is. So there's the little radio receiver that talks to the Gari mast that's going to be able to push the signal out of the camera. The cable then runs from there through the tops of this Maruda tree and then along and down into this tree over here. And the camera is sitting just over there and has got a full view of pretty much the carcass and the innards and everything like that, and it will be able to show as much as we can. It's not a huge field of view, and it's not actually able to be moved around, but we positioned it that we have the best possible view of the elephant that we can try and get. Obviously, we didn't want to mess around here too much and disturb too much, so we just try to get it so that it kind of views the elephant and anywhere where there could be potential feeding action. And so that's where it is, and hopefully it's going to provide some serious entertainment for everybody, and that you guys will be interested enough to watch in the wee hours of the night when we've all got our eyes closed and see what comes in here. I would be shocked if we didn't get something interesting. I think we're going to get something very interesting from this camera. I think we might even see something like a little slender mongoose scavenging off this, or something like that, something random that we don't think often happens. Now, while our Hosana decides to start having a nap, I believe Brent is still with the Nkumas, and they seem to be still napping as well. Now, poor Hosana was just about to come and start feeding. He had made it all the way to the head of this elephant and looked like he was about to start feeding, and then some of the bigger hyenas started to arrive, and as soon as he saw them, he gave weight and quickly moved off. Now, look at the size of the belly on this hyena. This hyena has eaten itself silly. It is so full, but it is still going, and poor Hosana for now is just going to have to sit in the background and wait again and see if he can get some semblance of food a little bit later. But darker it gets and the cooler it gets, the more these hyenas are going to carry on, and the more that they're going to be able to kind of feed off of this carcass, and the less chance Hosana's got. But he was just about to get in there. What's wrong, boy? Have you got something in your teeth? He almost looks like he was kind of just curling his lips back. Shame. He was, like I say, he was right here. He literally was about to feed. I was so excited because I thought he was going to get a little semblance of a meal, but it seems as though, unfortunately, hyenas have foiled his plan, and so there's a situation where he can't he's not going to get anything out of it, unfortunately, and so he's going to have to wait his turn, and hopefully the hyenas will back off eventually and he'll be able to get something out of it. Amazing his camouflage from here, though. You just see his ears kind of sticking up, and it's not like he's very visible at all. It's a situation where he kind of is hidden in that grass, and when it's zoomed in like that, you see him really easily, but actually he's quite well hidden, and if he drops his head a little bit and lies down, you really won't be able to see too much. And you can see he's watching all the vultures that are flying in over his head. There's a whole bunch of vultures that are around, and there you go, there's some vultures that are flying. Excuse the aerial, Dave was just showing you quickly some of the vultures that flew over, and that's why he kind of keeps moving his head, is because his the vultures come over and he kind of just watches them. I mean, vultures are big animals and they make a lot of noise when they fly, and so that's why he kind of has that sort of movement every now and then. There we go, he's up again and seems to be looking to the south. It's probably because we've got another vehicle that's joining us, so Aubrey's coming in, and that could be why he's just kind of watching. Also, hyena numbers are going to start getting more and more. So, book lover, this may be strange, but yes, I have seen people taking meat from an elephant carcass. There was an elephant that once got out of the Sabi Sands and it died. Funny enough, it unfortunately got tangled in the fence system on the western fringe, and there was a whole thing, and I can't even remember how it eventually died, but it did die, and it died right on the edge of the boundary. So half of it was inside the park, and the other half was on the outside of the park, and a whole bunch of the communities in this area came in, and they chopped that elephant up in all of about 10 minutes. That elephant had been distributed out, and pretty much nothing left but bones. So people do take them. I'm sure Brent has got many stories of elephants being chopped up and people stealing, well, not stealing, but taking bits off a carcass, and so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Brent had seen it, and it does happen. Here in the Sabi Sands, though, very seldom. There's no one here that needs to come and get meat off of this carcass, and the animals are protected here, and so this is nutrients for the bush. It's a massive amount of nutrients that needs to be given back, and so there's so many things that will feed off this, make use of it, and that means that you're going to have a situation where we're going to try and not have people kind of coming in and taking food off the carcass itself. Now, I think Pretty has just arrived. It looks like her. She's the cleanest of them all, and she's just kind of gone behind. There you go. You just see her ears poking up. So I think she's just arrived. There she is. She looks like her, with very, very clean, no sort of cuts on her ears, and that light color. Oh, rib action. Look at that. So that's the first bone that's been removed from the carcass itself. So we haven't seen any bones actually being carried off. That's the first one, and Pretty's now got herself an elephant-sized rib, and she's not interested in that for now. It's now time to kind of get into where all the good meaty spots are, and she's going to probably start feeding. I think it's Pretty. I'm not 100% sure. Now, for those of you who don't know our hyenas, they've all got a couple names, and there's kind of a hierarchy system to this clan, and This particular individual is one of the higher ranking females in the clan itself. In fact, she kind of seems to be one of the top females. And if Madam's not around anymore, because I haven't seen Madam in a long time, which is the clan matriarch, then she might actually be the matriarch at this stage. When she ran in, everybody else just separated, and so it would be pretty much kind of, I would think that maybe she's kind of on top of it. Now, Hosana's slinking off in the background. You can see the vehicle in the background there. That's where he is. He's just kind of sitting and watching what's going on and just taking it easy. And the hyenas have now really started to kind of come in. And I think more and more hyenas are going to arrive as the sun starts to set. So we're going to see an increase in numbers. And poor Hosana is really not going to get anything. But the size of this one's belly is ridiculous. Oopsie, there it goes, disappearing. Are you going to sleep inside there? It literally has walked in and lay down inside there. So it's found itself a little elephant carcass bed, which doesn't sound very nice at all, and probably not going to make it smell very good. But if you're a hyena, I suppose this is just absolute heaven. You see it's actually gone on its side and is almost rolling around. I actually want to go back a little bit, Dave, so we can try and see what's going on inside there. Hopefully this hyena doesn't get a fright and move. So let's see. I'm just going to roll back. Hopefully this hyena will stay where it is. There we go. Inside all of the mess, you can see it's just rotten elephant carcass pretty much all around it, and it's just sitting absolutely loving it, having a bit of a pant. It really is lying down. It's actually not standing there. It's kind of curled itself up like it would be lying on a bed, which is a bit ridiculous in many ways, and the rest of them are feeding behind it. There we go. Look, you see, it's actually kind of getting itself deeper in there and rolling. Now, what are you doing, hyena? You're covering yourself in the smell of an elephant carcass. Mom wouldn't be impressed if this was a young one. Mom would be, what have you been doing? It's almost the equivalent of us going and rolling around in mud as kids when when you've still got your clothes on. You can imagine how much that must stink. That poor hyena, when it walks past any unsuspecting vehicle with some tourists in it, they're not going to know what's going to hit them, because the smell of that hyena when it walks past is going to be delightful. So it's amazing. I've had it many times where people are like, oh, hyena, amazing, or even male lions, because they also do it, and they say, oh, male lions, and then they come walking past and this putrid smell of rotten meat just comes following them. It really is quite funny to see people's faces as they do, because it goes from this kind of amazement and this happy demeanor to all of a sudden people just think to themselves, no, this is too much, I can't deal with this, and kind of then block their noses and kind of turn their nose up. It's quite funny. Continues salivating because he's excited. He's been chewing a lot of thick, dense skin, and or she, should I say? Actually, it's not a he. Anyway, he's been chewing a lot of thick, dense skin, and that means that there's a lot of saliva coming out. It's not because it's got any sort of disease or anything like that we need to worry about. It's just that it's kind of salivating at the thought of so much food, and also from chewing skin, they tend to produce saliva, and you see it kind of running out. It's very common in hyenas on big carcasses like this. You see a lot of saliva coming out of their mouths while they chew on these things. It's an interesting thing. I suppose they get kind of so hungry and so sort of hyped up by the fact that there's this bounty of meat that they then end up kind of foaming, or not foaming at the mouth, but salivating at the mouth. Very cool to see, though. Isn't this amazing? This elephant carcass is incredible, and the fact that we've been able to kind of follow it from day one, it's just been the most amazing thing. It's slowly but surely you can see how this animal's body is breaking down, and the amount that it's giving to everybody is amazing. We've had, Brent and I were talking about it today, we've had dung beetles, we've had butterflies, we've had flies, we've got, I'm pretty sure, carcass beetles somewhere in there as well. Then you've got hyenas, leopard, you've got vultures of all different species that are here, and so it's just an amazing thing as they go along. Now here comes another hyena that's arriving. Could this actually be pretty? Difficult to say. Pretty, I know, has just got a really clean set of ears. So I thought the first one arrived, but this one is also quite clean. Let's see, maybe there'll be a bit of audio. Interesting ways to watch the dynamics amongst them. Now, Rebecca, sorry, can you repeat that question? I was so busy watching the hyenas coming in, I didn't actually hear what you said, I'm afraid. So, Francis, at the moment they're not eating too much skin. They're targeting more muscle and fibers of the elephant and trying to get as much of the meat as they can. But as it gets less and less, yes, they will start to eat the skin. And you'll find that sometimes they drag bits of the skin back to den sites for the little puppies to chew on, or cubs, should I say, to chew on. Tempers will start flaring. The more that come, the more tempers flare. And so cubs start to chew on that and start to really eat it, and then you get a situation where, they can, especially if they're teething, it's a good thing for them to chew. So adults do often take big pieces of skin back, and they will eventually consume it. There won't be any skin left eventually. There might be a few little flaps here and there, but they will eat most of it, and it's all nutrients at the end of the day. And so when the meat's gone, the skin is left, then they'll start to go after that. How cool is this, though, to have so many members of the Djuma clan that we haven't seen in so long arriving back at a Carcass and seeing them again. I know a lot of you are big fans of the Hyena clans here in Djuma and follow them and have been missing them quite a lot, given that we haven't had a den site, and it's been a little bit tough in terms of finding our hyenas. So it's really cool to see so many of the members that we've been missing for so long here at this Carcass and feeding and going crazy. So very, very good, and hopefully we'll see lots more of them in time to come. Now, Hosana has gone completely. I think he's actually about to cross into Little Gari. He's moved so far. So I think let's go get one last view of him, and while we and hopefully we'll kind of see him going down and maybe having a drink, and then we'll come back to the hyenas. The hyenas are not going to go anywhere. They're going to carry on feeding for now. So we'll just get one last